Today is April 28th, 2025. It is 6:33.
Mike.
Everybody can hear me. It is 6:33. Notice, please.
The Roxbury Township Board of Education is meeting in regular session for discussion on business before the board tonight. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the public's right to have advance notice of and to attend meetings of public bodies at which business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of the Act, the Board has caused written notice of this meeting and copies of its agenda to be transmitted to the Roxbury Register, the Daily Record, the Star Ledger, the Municipal Clerk, and the Roxbury Public Library. Also, the Roxbury website, roxbury.org. The notice of tonight's meeting has been posted in the Board's business office.
Thank you. Roll call.
Mr. Bonilla. Mr. Botero.
Here.
Mrs. Colucci.
Here.
Mrs. Galdieri. Ms. Hernandez.
Here.
Mrs. Hopkins.
Here.
Mrs. McGregor.
Here.
Mr. Mildy.
Here.
Mrs. Purcell.
Present.
Ms. Shenik. We have a quorum.
Thank you. We have resolution to meet in executive session. Would someone like to make that motion? Eddie? Second. Kathy? We are in exec.
I didn't turn the main on. Right, that could have just gone. This is a test of our lapel mics. Testing 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, sorry, I'm just trying to adjust. Testing 1, 2, 3. Test of the lapel mic. Final test of the lapel mics. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, we are now back from executive session. It's 7:30. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bonilla. Mr. Botero.
Here.
Mrs. Calucci.
Here.
Mrs. Galdieri. Ms. Hernandez.
Here.
Mrs. Hopkins.
Here.
Mrs. McGregor.
Here.
Mr. Mildy.
Here.
Mrs. Purcell.
Here.
Ms. Shenick. We have a quorum.
Thank you. If we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Sorry. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, and Dr. Santora and Joe are going to give the presentation on the budget.
All right, good evening, everyone. It's wonderful to be here this evening. A few participants here in person, but I'm sure there's many people tuning in from home. So I just want to begin by saying what an honor and privilege it is to be the superintendent here in Roxbury. I say that often, and it's because I mean it. And the other thing that I say often, and it's absolutely 100% true, is that I have never worked in a district with more amazing staff, faculty, support personnel, administrative individuals. Every single employee of this district cares so deeply about our students, and it's shown and it's demonstrated each and every day with their efforts. And I do count myself very lucky to be the superintendent here. So tonight's presentation will be on the proposed 25-26 budget. I can tell you that to get here this evening took a significant amount of hard work and dedication by so many people in this room as well as throughout the district. So I do want to thank our business administrator, Mr. Montanero, our director of human resources, Mrs. Ferrari, all our building principals, instructional supervisors, and department heads for coming together to build a very comprehensive and efficient budget. Roxbury has been on the wrong side of state aid cuts for a number of years. Yet each and every year we put forth a comprehensive budget that allows students to succeed and thrive, that allows our programs to be expanded and allows for increased opportunity for community engagement. So I want to thank all of the members of our leadership team. I also want to thank our Board of Education. They have been working with the administration hand in hand. And the members of the public should know that the board members ask very interesting, thought-provoking questions. They are concerned about, obviously, fiscal responsibility, and they feel a true responsibility to the taxpayer. So I want to thank all the members of the Board of Education because this was a very arduous process. It was rewarding, and most importantly, we have a balanced, tentative budget. So the first part of our presentation this evening will be a discussion of our district goals for the current school year. We'll talk in brief about some of the activities that we've engaged in to attain these goals. Mr. Montanero will speak about things that we've accomplished in terms of our finance and facilities portions of the district, and then we'll get into the nuts and bolts of the district in terms of the budget. I do want to point out that much of what we'll discuss in terms of how we attain goals can be attributed to our hardworking staff. So many of the staff come in all of our staff come in each and every day committed to your children. I hope they're listening this evening because I would like to thank them for all of their hard work and dedication. I'm lucky enough to work alongside them, and I'm continually impressed and inspired by them. So I'd like to thank all the staff. How we achieve our goals in short form really starts at our board retreat, which happened last July 2024. And this coincided with our district's administrative team retreat, where we looked at the current priorities of the district, the needs of our students, the concerns of our staff and our parents and community, and we came together to devise comprehensive goals for the upcoming year. Throughout the course of this year, we looked at the data. We continue to monitor our progress to A, assess whether or not the goals were meaningful, and B, were we making progress along those goals. So the first of our 5 goals talks about the implementation of what's known as a multi-tiered system of support. In education, we love acronyms, so the acronym for this is MTSS. And what it is, it's an instructional paradigm that allows for all students to receive an individualized plan for learning. Talking about the tiers, there are 3 tiers. Tier 1 is what is provided to all students and is believed to service nearly 80% of the population through differentiation of instruction. Tier 2 is designed to provide increased support for students who demonstrate a need for that, whether it's increased enrichment opportunity or increased academic intervention. And then Tier 3 is even further level of individualized instruction. And the way the systems are broken up is that if you are receiving a Tier 3 support, you are also receiving Tier 2 and Tier 1. So they build upon one another in order to provide a robust educational experience for all students. Over the course of this year, we have made significant progress along this goal. We have partnered with Linkit, which is a data analytics warehouse platform that allows us to collect a cadre of meaningful data and analyze it. Once we analyze the data, we can structure tailored instructional services and programs for students based on real time, based on a constant look at where the students are performing. We see this play out at the elementary level with what's known as our What I Need block or intervention block. This is a time of day that is separate from the core instructional periods so that students can receive specialized instruction, whether that's a Tier 1, a Tier 2, or Tier 3. This is new this year, and I want to credit our elementary principals, supervisors, and teachers for making this WIN block a reality for our students. Students can now receive targeted intervention that is in addition to, not in place of, core academic instruction. A key piece of this has been our staff members' commitment to data-informed decision-making. So over the course of this year, we've seen an enhancement to our data team meetings. Grade level teams are coming together. They're looking at the data as housed in Linkit, and they're developing plans. We've also had a lot of consultation from our basic skills or intervention staff. At the elementary and secondary level, they're known as in support of learning teachers, ISL teachers. In addition to providing direct instruction to students, they have also worked in these data team meetings, guiding their colleagues, classroom teachers, in how to structure programs of support for students. Another key piece of our progress in this area pertains to the implementation of benchmark assessments through Linkit. Why are these benchmark assessments important? They are standards aligned, and they've been implemented in grades 3 through 8 3 times, or will be by the end of this year, 3 times this year. These assessments are tied to the standards I mentioned, but they're also closely aligned with the New Jersey Student Learning Assessment, the NJSLA. Why is this important? Because this is the metric that we are judged upon in terms of proficiency. So these assessments have a very high correlation with how students will perform on the NJSLA this spring. So it's important that we administer these assessments, look at the data, and provide targeted instruction for students. Also through Linkit, we piloted what's known as Intervention Manager. This is a platform within Linkit that allows us to track plans of intervention for students. We're able to structure specific goals, tie them and their strategies to particular providers, and track how students are performing. A lot of this work previously had been done by hand. Now this gives staff more time to engage in meaningful instruction with students rather than administrative functions. And lastly, we saw this year the onset of what's known as the In Support of Learning program at EMS. In years prior, while there was a need, there wasn't a capacity to provide basic skills instruction at EMS. We were able to implement that this year despite even a difficult budget process last year. So these are just some of the tasks that we've engaged in. I'm very proud of the progress and the work that we've engaged in terms of District Goal 1, and I look forward to further progress in the coming years. District Goal 2 speaks about the district's portrait of a graduate. And as many of you know, this was put together a number of years ago. I believe it was the 18-19 school year, where community members came together with district personnel to create the portrait of a graduate. And it was designed to be emblematic of who we'd like our children to become as a product of going through our school system. Over the past year and a half, I've engaged in meaningful work with our staff, with our students, parents, community members around the portrait of a graduate, determining, does this still hold true today as it did 7 years ago? I'm proud to say that We've had a lot of feedback, a lot of participation, and a lot of themes emerge in the sense that the 6 core themes of the Portrait of a Graduate still hold true to who we would like our children to become. Where we need to go in terms of the Portrait of a Graduate is linking these ideals, these constructs to real life activities. This is important because we as a district are committed to transparency with our parents. We want our parents to be able to understand how we assess and work on the Portrait of a Graduate day in and day out across the district levels. So work will continue through the spring of this year on how we can revise the Portrait of a Graduate. District Goal 3 talks about sustainability, and I'm very proud of the district's efforts in this, and I'd like to thank 2 members of our team that are here. We have Ms. Ann Rhodes and Ms. Kathy Kolbush, who have led this from an administrative perspective at the central office level on sustainability and its message of creating a better world for our students of tomorrow. So the district in the fall of 2024 was honored at the New Jersey School Boards Association convention for all 7 of our schools obtaining silver status. There is no gold, so this is the highest level that we can achieve, but it is a Herculean task to maintain this level. So I want to thank all of our building principals, our students, parents, volunteers who do different kinds of service activities throughout the course of the year that enables us to maintain our silver status. District Goal 4 talks about health and wellness, and since I arrived, I've been very passionate about the fact that there's 2 pieces to health and wellness. There's the emotional wellness that is always important, but there's also physical wellness and safety. And I'm a big believer in the sense that if you don't feel physically safe, or we don't feel our children are physically safe, we can't tackle the emotional piece or the academic piece. So there's been a number of activities that we've engaged in over the course of this year that have been centered around physical safety. So I'll address those first. I'm very proud of the speed tables that we implemented or we installed at the high school EMS campus. This may sound trivial, but last school year we had a substantial amount of student accidents. We had students and maybe some parents or teachers speeding through the parking lot. With the installation of these speed tables, we have seen a substantial decrease in our terms of accidents. People are more present, more aware of the fact that they're driving through a campus where there's many people walking, so I'm very proud of that. Also along the terms of physical safety, we saw a change in our K through 4 transportation drop-off procedures this year. Prior to this year, students were able to, after kindergarten, exit the bus and get to their bus stop, and there was no check or balance to make sure that there was an adult present to receive that child. This resulted in a lot of safety concerns for me as a superintendent. So, as many of you know, and you might have been tasked with completing the online waiver form in Genesis, parents are required to make sure that there's an adult present at the bus stop for any child in grades K through 4 at the end of the day. The caveat is parents can waive that right, but it's important for us to remember that just as it's integral that we teach rudimentary academic skills, it's also integral that our students get to school safely and get home safely each and every day. Okay? We've also seen enhancement in terms of a school resource officer. And yes, this is a safety measure, but it's also one of emotional well-being as well. There's a level of commonality there. This school resource officer started in December, and I'd like to thank the Roxbury Police Department for their partnership in this. We have a fantastic individual, Officer Santos, who's been wonderful in creating relationships with students, assisting the district in not only student-specific intervention, but more school-wide programs as well. We've also seen the onset of the cell phone ban at Roxbury High School, and this is a safety measure because students are more engaged and they're less likely to engage in problematic cyberbullying kinds of behavior at school, but it also created an opportunity space for students to be more engaged in instruction. Faculty, staff, even parents and students have shared that they're better able to focus on instructional tasks rather than using their phones. So I want to credit the Roxbury High School staff as well as the administrative team for the implementation of this, as well as the students for complying with this. On the emotional well-being side, we've seen some substantial changes as well. This February, the district was awarded the New Jersey District of Character Award, and I can tell you that this is a significant honor, and it is the result of a tremendous amount of hard work from our school counselors, our teachers, our administrators, day in and day out. In order to obtain this award, you have to demonstrate a commitment towards excellence in terms of character education, and I'm very proud of our staff in this regard. We are also currently being considered for the National District of Character honor. We're told we'll receive that information in May, but I will tell you that being part of the review panel, those that sat as the reviewers were very impressed with the district's commitment. So thank you to all who committed to that. Truly appreciate it. This year, we also saw changes in terms of the individual and small group supports that we provide to students through the implementation of the zones of regulation curriculum at the elementary level. This program is designed to provide a Tier 1 level of support so that all students are given the opportunity and the tools necessary to regulate their emotion in a developmentally appropriate manner. We've also seen changes and enhancements to our district's crisis response procedures, how our district responds to students who demonstrate a risk of self-harm or risk of harm to others. I want to credit Dr. Seminario, our Director of Special Services, and Colleen Huguenin, our Supervisor for Student Support Services, for their work in reviewing our prior practices and coming up with new procedures that were more comprehensive and also provided a greater level of information to faculty, staff, and most importantly, parents during these crisis situations. And lastly, we had a slew of different school-based assemblies at the elementary, middle, and high school level, all designed to promote emotional well-being and character education. And lastly, District 05 is one I'm very passionate about, and that is community engagement and education. I have continuously been impressed by the spirit of collaboration and interest from our community, our parents, our Board of Education, community volunteers, and their interest in supporting the needs of the district in any way possible. And so this goal is in similar spirit. So a whole host of things have occurred throughout the course of the year. As a superintendent, I think it's very important that I'm available and accessible to the members of the public. So in addition to our Board of Education meetings, I do host monthly superintendent coffees where members of the public can come and listen to a presentation on various district initiatives, but also ask or raise questions or concerns that they have. And they don't have to be tied to the presentation. And I can tell you that the feedback and the questions that have been asked during these have been incredibly valuable to me as a superintendent, because you continuously learn what are the needs of our community. We can look at data, but when you hear it directly from parents and sometimes students who have attended, it is far more powerful. So please, if you haven't come to one before and you're listening, please come to the next one, which is tomorrow night. I do try and make sure that our community is informed through my newsletters, but we've also seen our administrative team engage in these activities as well. So at the high school level, our Supervisor of Student Support Services engaged in a series of parent focus group discussions which centered around the college planning process, but also talked about scheduling at the high school level. And it was really designed to provide parents with on-ramps for participation and also for us to understand ways we as a high school counseling department and high school overall can improve. We've also seen the implementation of new formats for parent orientations. Our principals have worked diligently from our back-to-school nights to the transition nights from 8th to 9th grade, and obviously from Lincoln Roosevelt to EMS, with a real focus on informing parents and showing parents what the children will experience each and every day. It's important for us that parents have a strong understanding of what goes on in their child's instructional day. That's why we've also provided some parent education nights at the elementary level. We had a math night as well as a literacy night, where parents of elementary age students could come and receive very specific information about what's being worked on in the school day, as well as ways they can promote literacy and math knowledge at home. I attended as a superintendent, but I'm also an elementary age parent of an elementary age student, so I definitely took notes as both, and I want to thank our staff members for doing that. We've also seen a commitment to re-engaging our special education parent community through our CPAG structure. So there will be a CPAG meeting tomorrow night, actually, prior to my coffee. So more information about that later, of course. But these are just different ways that our community can become involved. And we've also seen an increase in parent education for our students, multilanguage learner students. So we've increased our education for those parents as well. All designed to give parents a voice and a level of understanding of what's going on. And lastly, as a superintendent, I also hosts monthly open office hours in each of the 7 school buildings. And I find these sessions to be incredibly informative as well. Staff members can sign up, and they do, and they share all different kinds of topics with me, and they're all incredibly valuable, and you should know that each and every staff member I meet with shows such passion for servicing the students and the families of the district. So these are just some of the activities that we've engaged in terms of that. I do want to thank the many members of the public who have come to these events, and please know that there are more to come. We just had one at the elementary level on the NJSLA, and that was very beneficial and informative, and things like that will continue to occur. So thank you for that. We have a whole host of things that are incorporated in the proposed budget. And I said before that Roxbury has been on the wrong side of state aid cuts, and Mr. Montanaro will get into specific detail about what that dollar amount has translated to over the last 6 years. Despite all of that, I'm proud to say that there are a number of highlights in this budget that speak to our district's commitment to excellence for all students. We will continue our efforts around a tiered system of support and making sure that there's intervention opportunity for all students. We're growing our special education programs. So for the upcoming school year, there will be a new autism program at the elementary level at Nixon. The program will be housed, and there'll be another program at EMS. And this is designed to service not only existing students, but also potential students who move into the district and have this level of need. They can now be educated in their home school district, and that's something that's very important to me and our district as a whole. And in terms of mental health wellness, as I talked about before, we're going to continue the relationship with the school resource officer at Roxbury High School. And we're partnering with a new organization for the upcoming year at Roxbury High School. This provider will provide not only direct counseling services to students day in and day out, but they'll also provide services to families about how to navigate the system of care. If any of you have ever tried to access counseling staff on the outside, it is very difficult. And that is an area where the district is not equipped properly to support families and students in need. So this new partnership will fill and bridge that gap for us. There are many other pieces to this budget that we'll discuss, but I do want to stress again that despite the difficulties that we've faced, we have prioritized student learning and staff development, and I want to thank everyone for their work with that. And now I'll turn it over to Mr. Montanaro.
Okay, so where I usually start off with these presentations is I start off with some current and future endeavors. A couple of these slides remain the same from last year because I still have hope that we are going to develop the property here at Lincoln Roosevelt, between Lincoln Roosevelt and Franklin, to be our next athletic complex. The idea is to eventually convert this field here, which now has a fence around it, to a dome, or put a dome on the field, I should say. This would be a great revenue generator for us, and we need to look at alternate sources of revenue. We cannot just rely on transportation revenue and the revenue we receive from, these shared services with other school districts. This has the potential of bringing in about $500,000 a year. The only reason we haven't pulled the trigger on this is because these last 2 years with our state aid cuts, it would be very difficult to have a conversation with the community while on one hand we're talking about all the cuts we're receiving, but on the other hand we explain how there's still a way to fund this. My thoughts on funding this is probably doing like some kind of hybrid approach. That hybrid approach would most likely be putting maybe half of it down with capital and the other half maybe leasing. But again, this is a conversation that is on hold right now, but I do see eventually this being in Roxbury in the future. Again, if we were to lease it, if we were to lease the entire thing, it would most likely pay itself off within about 10 years. These domes have a lifespan of about 25 years, so then there would be 15 years of nothing but revenue being generated from this dome. Again, another image that was on my presentation from last year. However, we did award a contract back in September of 2024. Currently, this project not on hold. It is just going through the process with the attorneys from both sides just tweaking the contract language. And again, over the 15 years of this project, we would see a savings of about $1.6 million. Projects completed this past school year. We have the foods, what they call the foods room at the high school, which is also AKA the home ec room. Was completely revamped, new equipment, new countertops. There's our speed tables that Dr. Santora touched on. This was really important for us to do. You know, it's funny because in a meeting today we were discussing prior to having these speed tables or speed bumps or whatever you want to call them at the high school. I remember we were only maybe a week to 10 days in the month of January 2024, and we already had 6 fender benders in the high school parking lot. I think I haven't heard, maybe 2 since January that I've heard of, but last year it was a weekly occurrence. Here we have the ramps that were done at the high school, and you may say, Joe, why did we do those ramps? Well, for whatever reason, this past year we had 3 people fall coming out of the entrance here, and Dr. Santora was one of them. You know, so, and you know, we had, if you look, you can see the yellow strip that we painted, but what we noticed was walking out of the building, this is when these 3 individuals fell, walking out of the building, you open the door, there was only about a 1.5 foot before you stepped off the curb. I'm not saying some people were distracted by being on their phone or anything like that. However, you know, we did notice that this was an issue, and you know, someone really could have gotten hurt. Thankfully, no one did, but it was an issue that we were seeing. It became more of an issue when we had 3 people in about a 6-month period fall. So this is a picture of the generator right outside here on the Roosevelt side. We got a generator, Roosevelt, Lincoln, Central Office, and Franklin. Those were the only locations in the district where we did not have generators. Also, these generators were purchased through a grant that we received about 3 years ago. The generators themselves took over a year to get delivered. These are the sheds. You may ask, why did you put a picture of a shed? Well, we had to purchase a shed for every elementary school. Fire department came in and said that we could no longer, well, we shouldn't have been doing it in the first place, we could no longer store gas-powered equipment inside our buildings. So we purchased sheds for every elementary school. Now our lawnmowers, snow blowers, weed whackers are now all stored in these sheds at each location. This is the retaining wall that was done right here on the Roosevelt side, right outside the Roosevelt cafeteria. It was very damaged. The railing was damaged. It was causing some damage to the interior part of the building also. So this was done this past, I think it was either the very end of last school year or the beginning of this school year. And here's the Lincoln Roosevelt Field with the fence. Some people may say, hey, why did you put a fence up if you're thinking about putting a dome? The reason is we have to protect our investment. I will give you 2 stories of why we protect these types of locations. One story is that a couple years ago, a college student came home for Thanksgiving weekend or Thanksgiving week and decided to do donuts on the field before it was a turf field, leaving huge markings in the field. That former student came back and assisted our building and grounds department with adding soil back and grading it over. Then the other story is, which is one for the ages, we were getting reports of a car. Now, this is all before the turf was laid down. We were getting reports of a car driving on the field. And we didn't know what was going on. We informed security. I may have seen the car. I called security and said, the car's here. It's on the field. Security gets here along with Roxbury PD. It was a community member who was walking his dog. However, he was too old that he couldn't walk the dog. So he basically sat in the car and drove the dog while the dog walked around the field. So you ask why we try to protect our facilities. That's one reason. The other reason is, honestly, no matter what happens on the weekend, these facilities need to be ready to go for Monday morning for our students. Okay, and this was recently done. These pictures are actually only from last week. This is the new cafe at the high school. It's basically a coffee bar. There's going to be donuts and other types of serving, things to be served here. The nice thing about this location is that our students at the high school, our special education students, will be working this snack bar, coffee bar, what have you. And that was something that we had been putting together with the transition coordinator this past year, not just here, but other areas in the district that our students can work. We have or had a student working in our transportation maintenance department, assisting with oil changes on buses and things of that nature. So instead of the students going out to either a Walmart or Kohl's or something along those lines, we have some of these students, not all of them, some of them working in the district at facilities that we have here that they can learn from. Okay, felt it was important to give an update on air conditioning. Everyone seems, this is a very important issue, even though it's really only needed 2 months of the year, but hey, here it is. Roxbury High School, the entire school is air conditioned. EMS, 50% of the building is air conditioned. The remainder of the building is scheduled for completion in the next year. One of the things with EMS is the types of windows that are there. So in EMS, they don't get window units, they get split units, which I like the split units because they can cover sometimes between 2 and 3 classrooms. So we get a lot of bang for our buck out of those. Lincoln Roosevelt, 20 classrooms remain without air conditioning. Remainder is scheduled again for the completion of this school year, or I should say in the next year. All spaces at Franklin are conditioned. 6 window units need to be replaced, however. Jefferson, all spaces air conditioned. Kennedy, all spaces air conditioned except for the cafeteria. And the same thing with Nixon, all spaces air conditioned except for the cafeteria. And we will work on the cafeteria. We haven't received any complaints out of the cafeteria. However, we will work on them. The goal is to get all of these buildings 100% air conditioned. We did it, I don't want to say we cheated, but a few years back we did have a study done to see how much it would cost to air condition every space in the district. That number came in, and this was before COVID, that number came in at over $7 million. So by cheating, we've been using window units, which are working. The only thing is we have to look at the power output of some of these buildings, like Lincoln Roosevelt, our oldest school at 107 years old. We just have to do some upgrades to the electric in order for Lincoln Roosevelt to be able to output enough energy to operate these units, and we've done that. These are projects completed throughout the district over the years. I'm not going to go through every project. This is pretty much the same slide that I had up last year, but there's been some substantial projects done. I would say 90% of our roofs are done. 80% of our windows are done. We have a window project scheduled for the balance of this building here, which is only, I think, one side of the building on the Roosevelt side. And the high school is actually going to get windows, new windows or sealed windows in the next couple months. Actually, I think the projects are scheduled to occur over the summer. They'll have no effect on school opening in September or late August. But those are the two main projects we have going on. We've done really all the big projects. Usually the pictures I show are a little more extensive and they're bigger projects, but we've done them all really over these last few years. So now it's just really about maintaining what we have in place. The next big project, which is on my radar, and I don't know if I put it in the slides, is really starting to look at the rooftop HVAC units, especially at the high school. They could potentially run us $20,000 to $30,000 a piece, and I think at the high school we have over 100. Right now we're kind of looking at which ones need to be replaced versus which ones could be rebuilt. We have a phenomenal buildings and ground staff that are certificated, are licensed, that have the capacity to actually possibly rebuild some of them. So we will see savings that way. All right, so ongoing maintenance projects, this occurs throughout the district. Fencing replacements, landscaping and beautification projects, flooring abatements. We do 2 to 3 classrooms per year, per building, getting rid of the old 9x9 asbestos tiles. It used to be 5, 6 classrooms, but the cost of redoing a floor since COVID has basically doubled. Sidewalks and curb work, bathroom renovations. When we talk about bathroom renovations, it's a matter of painting, possibly redoing the floor, adding a drop ceiling, and replacing the stalls. A lot of that work for the bathroom renovations are done in-house by our B&G department. Project plans for 25, 26, and beyond, continue HVAC upgrades district-wide. We talked about that with the AC, just talked about it with the actual, the HVAC rooftop units. Roxbury High School flooring on the second floor. There is, I don't want to say damage to it, but there is some wear and tear. Roxbury High School is our youngest building at 54 years old. But, you know, it's, you know, those tiles, the floor is that marble, not terrazzo, I forget what it is. However, it's cracking in certain places. We do know that it needs to be replaced. However, the cost for doing something like that is really astronomical. We still have on the radar the Roxbury High School athletic field bathroom. We are meeting tomorrow with the athletic director to discuss possibly an overhaul of the Roxbury High School team rooms. Roxbury High School choir room carpets are going to be replaced. Again, I spoke about this before. We're going to continue to develop the property between Lincoln Roosevelt and Franklin. Some of that development might just be putting in a softball field. Other things we can do that we could do in-house that will not cost us a lot of money. Develop new special education programs. This is something that Dr. Santora touched on in his piece of the presentation. New special education classrooms at Lincoln Roosevelt here. We have scheduled to redo space in the basement here to accommodate 3 new classrooms for a new program that we are looking at launching, I would say 2027, Dr. Santora? 26, 27, okay? And again, here we go, preschool expansion. We didn't get the grant last year. However, we are aiming to get the grant this year. We feel that, you know, this is going to help with our student population. You know, generally when you have free preschool in a school district, more younger families move in to take advantage of that. We'd love to see more families move in to help us with our enrollment numbers. Also, with preschool expansion, there are costs that can be reclassified through the preschool expansion grant. Again, if we have 200 students at, let's say, Kennedy School, 20 of those students are preschool, that means that's 10% preschool. Could I then take 10% of the principal's salary, the secretary's salary, and reclassify it to preschool? Absolutely. So those are things that we're looking at with the preschool grant. Other things as well, but that's transportation. Usually, we purchase a few buses every year. There were times early on when I first started here, we were purchasing 6 buses a year. I think one year we actually purchased 12 so we can take on a shared service with another school district. However, funds are tight. We are not purchasing any new school buses this year. However, our buses are well maintained. We have great mechanics in our transportation garage. Our buses are equipped with air filters. And when I say air filters, I'm not talking about filters under the hood. I'm talking about filters we put in place during COVID that circulate the air in the bus itself. Cameras, and we have Zonar. Zonar is a fleet management system that we use for our inspections, maintenance, GPS tracking, and turn-by-turn directions for our drivers. Also, if there are any parents here, we rolled out Stop Finder. I believe today most parents got access to it. Stop Finder is an all-in-one parent engagement app designed by parents for parents to keep you in the know. Receive bus location, ETA, and geo alerts that's available. Not sure if we rolled that out yet. I am meeting with our transportation director this week. And messages, updates, and alerts in real time. Food service. These slides remain the same from last year. We have partnered with Mascios once again. This is the second year of the contract award. I think we awarded this contract in 23. In 2023, this is the second year, the second renewal of that initial contract. Mascios has been great. We do have a new chef at the high school, Chef Duff. We have a new manager at the high school. That's Tiana Loriano, right? All right, before we get here, okay, shared service agreements, we can do this. All right, shared service agreements. So here's a list of our shared service agreements with Mount Arlington Board of Education. We take in all of their 9 to 12 students, non-public schools. Mascios actually provides, I believe, St. Therese meals, lunch, and we currently have a maintenance and a technology service agreement with St. Therese. We provide tech services to them. We then bill them, and they pay us through a technology they receive from the state of New Jersey. Hopakong, and Hopakong is also the Sussex Cooperative. We have bus maintenance and repair, Mount Arlington BOE, Mine Hill BOE, and Wharton BOE Transportation. Mount Arlington and Mine Hill, we actually transport their students, like as far as routes. Wharton is more on the side of field trips and athletic trips. Mount Arlington BOE and Randolph BOE, maintenance services. We have an HVAC technician or a couple of HVAC technicians who maintain their food service equipment in Randolph. Educational Services Commission of Morris County, that's for non-public services and transportation. Sussex County Cooperative is for special education transportation. Essex, Morris, Middlesex, Hunterdon County Educational Services Commission, that's all for purchasing. Morris County Municipal Utilities Authority, we have a contract with them for waste management and recycling. Roxbury Township, we have a shared service with the town for fuel, facilities usage, and salt. Morris and Bergen County Cooperatives, again, purchasing. All right, so our budget challenges, again, this slide hasn't changed since I've been doing this. So we deal with the 2% levy cap. A reduction in state aid. That reduction, the last year of the reduction in state aid for S2 was last year. Chapter 44 is related to health benefits. Back in 2020, the state came in and said, hey, every district now needs to offer these plans. Do away with all of your other plans, but keep these plans have to be offered for new employees. With Chapter 44, the plans that we had to take on from the state, for one bargaining unit of approximately 70 employees, it cost us $1,600 per employee to switch over. That's how much money we lost because of Chapter 44. And Chapter 44, per the state, was supposed to save us money. That hasn't happened. Enrollment. We have lost over 500 students in the last, since 2013, the last 12, 13 years. Health benefit increases. Our health benefits this year increased 15%. What does that mean for us in Roxbury? That was $1.8 million. Special education costs. You know, we talk about special education costs, and, you know, we hear people say, well, you're funded from the state and the federal government. You will see in a future slide of about, I believe it's $19 million. this year we received $4 million from the state and $1 million from the federal government. So the rest of that 19 million or 14 million balance is on the taxpayer of Roxbury. Unfunded mandates, these are things that the state tells us we have to do, but do not give us any money for. Facilities concerns, again, we have aging facilities. We try to maintain them best as we can. The building that you're in right now is 107 years old. The central office is 122 years old. Our newest building is the high school at 54 years old. Actually, that's our newest school. Our newest building is actually the transportation building, which was built in 1980. So that's 45 years old. And finally, cybersecurity threats. A couple of years ago, when I first started here in Roxbury, by the way, this is my 6th budget hearing, cybersecurity wasn't even on the radar. Cybersecurity came up, what, Wade, would you say about 3-4 years ago? Yep. And what we started, and at a cost of hundreds of thousands of dollars for the initial contracts to get going. What we were seeing is there was definitely one school district not far from us that was hacked, and you know, everything is on the hush-hush, but we do believe that they paid a ransom to get all their information back. That was probably about 4 years ago. I believe it was right before COVID. All right. This is a new slide that I put together just for tonight. Don't you feel special? So this is state aid from 2020 to 2026. Now you can look at the bottom number here and see that in 2020 our state aid was almost $12.9 million. And where we are now in 2026 is almost $7 million. That's a loss right there of what, about 5.2 million, give or take? If you look at the school choice number, that number fluctuates. Okay, that's based on students every year, changes in students. But what I cannot understand, oh, it's not there, Frank. It didn't go through, but that's okay, I can explain it. Categorical special education, categorical transportation, and there was another one in here that's blank, but that's categorical security aid. Categorical security aid from 2020 to 2025 was $61,433 every year. If you look, categorical transportation aid and categorical special ed is all the same from 2020 to 2025. 6 fiscal years, all the same. How can that possibly be when we know we're transporting more students, we have more special education students? How come that number didn't fluctuate at all? Then you get to this school year. Look at what happens. The state, by their formula, they take away equalization aid from us, which was like $3.4 million. And then they give us extra money. Look at what our categorical special ed went up to. Almost a $2 million increase, a $1.9 million increase. Categorical transportation, almost a $1.4 million increase. What's not on here is security. Security increased, I think, up to $697,000. That's almost 10 times what we were getting from 2020 to 2025 in those 6 years prior. What's funny is we didn't get the equalization aid of $3.4 million, but if you add up the difference between what we did get and those big increases, it almost comes out to $3 million. I think it's a shell game. That's just me. I can't explain it. The state uses all kinds of factors to determine their calculation and how they give us funding. We're going to get into that just a little bit more in another slide. If you look, these are articles that have been in our newspapers throughout the state in the past couple of months. Wayne Public Schools. School district wants to lay off 40 staffers and get rid of cops in schools. Middletown Public Schools. District wants to close 2 elementary schools in massive restructuring. Plainfield Public Schools. New Jersey School District wants to raise taxes 36% in shocking move. This next one, Jefferson, is I implore. Now, I sent this to my board and my administration this past week, and I think on Friday, to read this. I implore the community to read this. This details, this is on Jefferson Board of Ed's website. This details what they've gone through for the last 5-6 years because of S2, because all of the state aid cuts. You will read about what they've had to do. They are currently closing a 3rd elementary school. They are selling off their central office. They have basically blown through all of their reserves. There's not much further, there's nothing more that they can do to kind of rein any of this in. They've hit that cliff. Now they, along with other school districts, have gone after the state of New Jersey and Oprah'd the state of New Jersey's funding formula. Do you think the state of New Jersey gave it to them or the other school districts? No. Why? Lacey Township School District proposes cutting all sports to fix huge financial crisis. Bordentown Regional School District to slash nearly 50 jobs in horrific cost-saving plan. Keyport, tiny coastal New Jersey town, school district proposes 12.5% tax hike. Residents are enraged. Toms River Regional School District facing huge budget gap, might get a bailout by selling building for $15 million. That's great. You sell that building this year. That bails you out this year. What do you do next year? And here's what I'm going to tell the community, because the board already knows, because we've had this conversation. Next year, where is Roxbury going to fall in here? Because Roxbury, I think, unless something significant is done at the state level, we're going to be up here. We're going to be one of these articles next year. Here is our revenue budget. You can see local revenue decreased by 1.1 million, state aid decreased by 1.4 million, federal aid decreased by 84,000. And the thing about federal aid, and I know there's a lot of talk out there about federal aid. This was basically the semi-reimbursement. The semi-reimbursement has always been historically in this district about $90,000. This year, the state says, we're going to give you less than, not the state, the Fed says, we're going to give you less than 10% of that. We deal with it, we move on. Some districts do not even include that in their revenue. Other sources, an increase of 992,000. Other sources, just so everyone is aware, is made up of fund balance, extraordinary aid, and you know, I want everybody to understand we really had to squeeze and realize revenues that were not realized in the past just so we can come to a balanced budget. You'll see total grants and entitlements. Another thing not to freak out about here is you'll see the revised number from last year at almost 7 million, and right now that number is at almost 1.5 million. But understand we are only allowed to calculate, when doing the revenues and appropriations, 85% of what we got prior year. That's why that number is like that. Here's our operating expenditures. You can see here capital outlay. A big piece of this is usually technology. We've decreased the technology budget substantially. So that's a 73% decrease. And I'm not saying that's all technology. However, that is equipment purchases throughout the district that we are not intending to make for next year. Another big decrease in here, again, is the grants and entitlements. But like I said, we only budget that on both sides at 15% from the prior year. If you look at our total general fund, we're only increasing our general fund by 1.65%. The big story here with our operating expenditures in this pie chart is the biggest expenses here you're going to see is regular instruction, which includes all salaries, okay, special education, and employee benefits. Special ed and employee benefits are almost around the same amount of money. Special education, almost $16,500,000. Regular instructions, almost $26 million. Employee benefits, almost $17 million. That's the bulk of the budget. You know, people always say, no, you have to go in and you have to trim. There's nowhere to trim. If you think we're getting money from pencils and crayons, you're mistaken. When we go in and we trim, we're getting that money from human capital. That's what happens. That's where we get the biggest bang for our buck. We put a number on every individual when we're talking about a position, $100,000. Sometimes that number's higher, sometimes that number's lower, but usually $100,000 is a good starting point. I did this last year, I did it again this year. Please understand, these numbers are based off of last year's budget. I can only do last year because these other school districts for this current school year, their numbers aren't out there yet. They haven't all given their budget presentations. So this is based off of last year's proposed 2025 budget. Couple things you want to see in here. Pluses for us is in regular instruction, we spend the most money percentage-wise. Okay? I think everywhere else, just about everywhere else, we kind of fall in the middle. Well, special education, actually, yeah, we're in the middle, special ed. Benefits, are we lowest in benefits? Oh, look at that. Awesome. Administration. Administration, we fall right in the middle. However, next year, we will probably be the lowest because approximately between $250,000 and $300,000 of that number is going to come off because, you say why, we are not replacing the assistant superintendent. We're not replacing a board secretary that was also a part of the administration. Co-curricular, again, we're right in the middle. Athletics, we're tops. Plant operations and security, we are number one, which I'd rather be there spending more money in this area. And again, we spend more money in this area because of the age of our buildings. And we do have a phenomenal security presence. And if you think about the things that we've done with our security, with the SRO, 9.6 to 1011 isn't much different if you compare the numbers, okay? Percentage-wise. Technology, again, this is another number next year that we are going to be, and this isn't great or anything, this is not great. We're going to be probably at $900,000 next year because we are not doing a technology lease in this upcoming school year. Which means that next year we will spend the least amount, if the other districts remain the same, we will spend the least amount of money in technology than the other districts. And I think this is a good chart. Everybody always wants to compare us to those districts surrounding us. Well, percentage-wise, here it is. Okay. Our proposed tax levy is $65,092,464. That represents a 4.37% increase from the levy from the prior year. Now, generally, we can only go up to a 2% levy cap. However, this year, we used what is called banked cap, and we used a health benefit adjustment. With those two things, and I think we used a student enrollment adjustment, we used whatever we could. We are able to increase the levy up to 4.37% over the 2% without a vote. The only people that have to vote on it are the board members here. Now, adequacy. According to the state of New Jersey, our adequacy budget should be $66,748,679. That is the state calculation which determines the funding level to provide a thorough and efficient education. So the state is saying at adequacy, we should be spending over $66 million. Then there's local fair share. Local fair share is what the state believes that this township could or would be able to raise and earmark for the school district's budget. If you look, local fair share, they're saying that the township of Roxbury would be able to raise almost $69,500,000. They're saying adequacy is $66,700,000. And we're saying we just need $65,092,000 to run the school district next year. Everybody understand that? And here we go. comparison from last year to this year, local school rate on a $400,000 home, taxpayers of Roxbury are going to pay 1.836%, which comes out to $7,344. Now, I like using round numbers. That's why I use 400,000. I think average assessed home in Roxbury is about $347,000. Again, I like using round numbers, just much easier for everybody to understand. Okay? What else we have? That's it? That's it already. Does anyone, the other thing I want to know, because this came up before, is what the percentage is of the school district of the entire taxes in the township. That percentage is upwards of 60%, 63, 64%. Kathy? Any questions?
Joe, just more of a comment. So, the chatter from others that are in different districts, right, is the state, and this is more of a general question, and obviously you have different connections than any of us here at the table, right? Is this the state's way to kind of push the regionalized method, right?
So I'm gonna give you a couple of things, and I'm so glad you asked that question because it leads me into two things I wanted to discuss, and I forgot. And I said to Kathy I would do this. So, two things I want everybody in the room to understand. The board knows this. For those people at home, they don't know this, and for those in attendance, they don't know this. Last year, the state dangled a carrot in front of the administration. That carrot was, if we can convince the board, we could have raised the tax levy 9.9% last year without voter approval. You, the board, would just have to vote on it. Dr. Santoro and myself said, we're not doing that. As much as we felt like it would be beneficial, however, at the time, and even if it was this year, I don't think we would pull the trigger on it. This year, the state came in and said, hey, we have something out there called the tax levy incentive. What we're going to do is, if whatever you raise the levy by, if you raise the levy $6 million, we're going to give you 5%. So you raise the levy $6 million, we're going to give you $300,000. That was the tax levy incentive. Again, that could have raised taxes upwards of almost 10% without voter approval. We just had to come to you, the board, and say, hey, this is what's happening. We didn't do it this year. Next year, I don't know. It may get a little crazy, where we may come to you and say, hey, this is out there. But again, I think we operate, the administration and the board operates, and we figure things out together. We just never come to you and say, hey, we want to do this. We give you the positives, we give you the negatives, and we say, let's figure this out together. What's best for the district, what's best for the taxpayer. Everyone is always in the discussion. We never say we don't care. We say we're willing to look at everything, right? Going back to your question about consolidation, do I think that this is also playing into the whole consolidation thing? Absolutely. I will readily admit that I think that there are some districts out there that have one school, a K-6, and they have a principal, a business administrator, and a superintendent. Then we find there are other districts, a couple in Morris County, a lot of them are in Sussex County because they're so spread out, that are running into these issues where they cannot generate the revenue they need. And we're getting there. Everything that I asked you to read about Jefferson, everything that they're talking about, we've had that discussion. Me, Frank, Lisa, we've had the discussion about buildings, about redistricting. All of these things, we've had the discussions already because we're planning, like, what is this going to look like? Not now. What is it going to look like next year? What is it going to look like the year after? That's where we are. But yes, I do think consolidation, the state wants it to happen. there's a very big part of me that completely understands it. And like I said, there are districts out there, one school, not even a K-8, not even a K-12, principal, business administrator, superintendent. And just think about what those salaries are. All right? So, yes, without going into further discussion, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it does make sense. It does make sense. Dr. Santoro, myself, Lisa, we talk about it all the time. Dr. Santoro?
Yeah, I think that Mr. Mondano was absolutely correct, and I think the spirit of the discussion, though, from a district perspective, would be one that I would hope with the state is that discussions could be had about what the parameters are, right? So that way, if a district is interested in that kind of decision, that there'd be given time to consider all the different logistical challenges that exist with that, rather than feeling forced into something like that. But I concur with Mr. Mondano. I believe that this is a step in that direction for a lot of districts who find themselves in a very difficult position.
And I think that currently, and they've done this in the past, Dr. Santor, I think there's currently a grant out there to do a consolidation study for certain districts that are interested. Any other questions? And again, we did that special presentation on April 7th, which basically walked you through where we were in trying to figure this budget out. We started with an over $7 million deficit. We whittled that down. We got here today to provide you with a balanced budget. It was a lot of work, but I wouldn't do it with anybody else. You know, Dr. Santor, Mrs. Ferrari really, and Kathy really just helped me get through the process. I mean, it's definitely a team effort. It's collaborative. And I think we really have done some, you know, no matter what anyone says, we've done some really good work. Thank you.
Oh, well. Joe, do we have any correspondence?
No correspondence.
No correspondence, so I don't have to wait for you. We have no student rep either. I have no comments other than you guys have done a fantastic job laying everything out and presenting it, as well as all the work behind the scenes. Dr. Santora, do you have any comments?
Other than, I agree, I think, you know, Mr. Mondano's done a great job. I do want to plug two events. Tomorrow, there will be a CPAC meeting, which is Special Education Parent Advisory Committee. That will take place at 6 p.m. at EMS in the Media Center. And then at 7 p.m., there will be this month's Superintendent Coffin, hosted by me, and that will be at Nixon Elementary School at 7 p.m. So hopefully people can come out to the event. If not, don't worry, there'll be another one next month. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Joe, any report other than what you just presented?
I have no report.
Okay, so that brings us to the minutes. We have a few different meetings covered here. I'll first ask, do we have any changes or corrections needed for the board training session from March 13th, the regular meeting on March 17th, or the special board meeting of April 7th? No. Okay, so we can do one vote. Okay, so would someone like to move? We're going to do this all in one vote here for March 13th, the training session, the regular meeting on the 17th, and both executive sessions on March 17th, as well as the special board meeting of April 7th. Would someone like to make that motion?
I'll do it.
Ann, second. Eddie? All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed?
No, you gotta do a roll call, no?
No, more.
No, just do it all one more. Sorry, all in favor? Perfect.
Committee reports. For sake of time, we'll just report on the date of the meetings and the next scheduled meeting. So Val is not here for community relations, but we met on 4/15, and the next meeting will be on May 6th. Education, Milo's not here, But that committee met on April 14th and will meet again on May 5th. Facilities.
Okay, we met on April 15th, and we're going to be meeting again on May 6th, and it's going to be virtual, and it's going to be at 3:45.
Thank you. Carol, Finance?
Yeah, on finance, we met on April 15th. Next meeting will be May 6th.
We met on April 16th. Next meeting will be Thursday, May 8th at 4:30 virtual.
Okay, policies met on April 14th and will meet again on May 5th. No negotiations. Kathy, anything for sustainability?
We're just working on our next submission, which is June 12th.
Perfect, thank you. Great, do we have any public comments for action items?
No public comments.
Okay, that brings us to action items. We have 33 resolutions for finance. Carol, would you like to make that motion?
Yes, I'd like to move finance resolutions 1 through 33.
Second? Eddie?
Ed's on fire today.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Botero,
Yes, I'll let apply.
Mrs. Coolucci,
Yes.
Ms. Hernandez,
Yes.
Mrs. Hopkins,
Yes.
Mrs. McGregor, Mrs. Purcell,
Yes.
Ms. Shenick,
On finance resolution number 2, bills list, I'm recusing on one PO, PO 25-4002. And on number 7, travel request, I'm recusing on number 18 and number 19. Yes on all the rest of the bills and the travel requests, and yes on all the rest of the resolutions.
and Mr. Mildy.
Yes.
Passes.
Okay, education. We have 10 resolutions for education. Milo is not here. Would somebody like to move resolutions 1 through 10? Kathy, second. Any takers? Sharon. Roll call, please.
Mr. Botero,
Yes, I'll let apply.
Mrs. Coolucci,
Yes.
Ms. Hernandez,
Yes.
Mrs. Hopkins,
Yes.
Mrs. McGregor,
Yes.
Mrs. Purcell,
Yes.
Ms. Shenick,
Yes.
and Mr. Mildy.
Yes.
Passes.
Okay, personnel, resolutions 1 through 15. Sharon, I'm sorry, you want to make that motion? Second? Eddie? Roll call, please.
Mr. Botero,
Yes, I'll let apply.
Mrs. Coolucci,
Okay, on number 6, on number 1, I'm excusing myself, but yes on the rest.
Ms. Hernandez,
Yes.
Mrs. Hopkins,
Yes.
Mrs. McGregor,
Yes.
Mrs. Purcell,
Yes.
Ms. Shenick,
On number 1, personnel, I'm recusing on number 7, Dr. Sight, yes on all the rest. And on number 10, I'm recusing, and yes on all the rest of the resolutions.
and Mr. Mildy.
On resolution 1, item 7, I am recusing. And on resolution 6, item 1, I abstain. Yes to all the rest.
Passes.
Okay. We have a resolution to meet in executive session on May the 12th. Someone like to move that? Sharon, second. Kim? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Public comments. Do we have any public comments for non-agenda items?
No public comments.
Okay. Any board member comments?
I do.
Ann?
A couple of weeks ago, I went to see Beetlejuice with my family. It was amazing. I have to tell you, I give those 7th and 8th grade kids a lot of credit, a lot of talent. It was really done very well. We really enjoyed ourselves watching it. My grandkids and Kathy's grandkids, they really enjoyed it, right, Kathy? They really did. But they were amazing. Really good show. Yes, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice.
Thank you. Anyone else? Myrna?
Just a reminder, also Wednesday is SEL night. And SEL night at the pavilion here at Franklin Elementary School. It's all the school counselors are putting together a project. It's a community project. It's open to all the families.
Thank you for that reminder. Any other board members have comments? Okay. We do need to meet an executive session one more time, so would someone like to make that motion? Ann, second? Eddie? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. We will meet.